Hi, lovely people of the universe, of density and duality. I have come before you today, a few days before our new moon, where I will also meet with you again and we'll do a reading then to do something just a little bit different. I want to discuss reality. I want to discuss what is real and what is not. In light of, the huge and overwhelming wall of astrology that was talking to us about the Venus-Jupiter conjunction in tropical Gemini and sidereal Cancer, which I don't know how it hit you. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on it as well, but I'm just going to give you mine. I think it made a lot of people think that astrology is not astrologying, and more or less that life is lifing. And it leads us to the larger question, which is actually very pertinent for this moment in time, which is, what is real? And how do we determine that collectively and individually? Here on this channel, in this space, we talk a lot about duality, and we talk a lot about the density of the earth plane, and generally about the subject-object problem. Like, my conviction is that there's really only one of us here. And that comes through a lot of observation, experience, and study on my part. Maybe you don't feel that way. And my point about that is, your point of view is valid too. Now, just as an example, something that I want to throw at you. I'm in the country. I'm very, very fortunate to be at a friend's cabin in the mountains. There is a robin here who is convinced that there is another robin in each one of the downstairs windows. And this poor bird-brained fellow has been throwing himself against the windows for days. Luckily, now that I am here, I am able to retrain him out of his habit, good Saturnian word, habit, of smashing his brains in on the downstairs windows. If he should happen to do that while I'm speaking to you, though, I just don't want you to be alarmed. He's having a reality problem. Maybe you know some other people who are too. Maybe the entire AI, Bitcoin, financial market situation is an alternate reality for you like it is for me. But let's talk about something that we can observe collectively and that we do understand to be real, whatever that means, right? The sun, our closest star, is exactly 108 sun diameters from the Earth. The moon, our closest satellite, dearest friend, is exactly 108 moon diameters from the Earth, moving away at 4 centimeters per year. So it's slipping slowly out of its orbit. This cosmic connection is real. It is observable. We know it is true, but we don't know what it means. Jupiter is the planet that helps us understand meaning, whether for the group or for the individual. And Jupiter is about to change signs in the tropical way of looking at things, which is just a point of view, right? It's one person's point of view. It's one way of looking at things. And in the sidereal, it has just changed signs. So it will change signs at the end of the month in the tropical, and it has just changed signs in the sidereal. However you look at it, meaning is changing in some significant way. We are changing the way we understand meaning. And that's kind of what I want to get to at this particular point by bringing up some of the astrology. The way I understand the meaning of the world is very oftentimes to use the cards and look at the stars, right? Then I have a third point of introspection myself that I refer to. It's just my way of doing it. If it is helpful for you, then I think that's wonderful, and I'm glad to help. But everyone's saying that Jupiter and Saturn Jupiter and Venus coming together, which is a conjunction that happens every single year, albeit it doesn't happen in Cancer or Gemini tropical, Cancer sidereal every year. It happens every 12 years. Still, not enough of a thing that it was going to be really pivotal. What is really pivotal is that Sun-Moon-Earth relationship, the one that causes eclipses. Now, I want to take a look at another triplicity, another triad right now that I think is really helpful. This one only really occurring in tropical astrology, but it's the Uranus-Sedna-Ceres conjunction, and that is happening in tropical... I'm sorry, it's happening in tropical Gemini right now. So it's moving into this information age along with the Bitcoin, the AI, and the question of what is reality. Sorry, I lost the plot for a second there. These three planets, Uranus, the demand for internal change from a planet that alligator rolls its way through the solar system. And then Sedna, which is terrible events, terrible pressure that leads to a transformation that gives us all the animals in the sea, right? But not without blood and guts and terror. And Ceres, which is the harvest, right? She is not only Ceres of the harvest, but also Demeter, the one who went on strike when her daughter got dragged in the underworld and raped. We don't... Whenever there's a rape in Greek mythology, we have to be a little careful because it's his story, right? We're not really sure what happened to her. She eventually got on her game and became the queen of the underworld, and that's another harvest story, right? That's the way that we can look at it from a different perspective now that we're not the victims of trauma, now that we are in a different situation. My point is, these three planets, also this conjunction, represents an evolutionary leap in shadow integration and individuation. We're rebalancing the foundational narrative to express an awareness of identity without punitive conditioning, right? We're ready to get beyond this victim, perpetrator, hero triad, but there's a hitch in the get along. There's a perpetrator that doesn't want to stop perpetrating, right? And the sense that Uranus is going to bring a profound and sudden reaping of a harvest, a release of this past betrayal, this continual victimization cycle, and turn it into something that's more of a right rhythm. Because what is real is becoming obvious, right? It's becoming very obvious that we're living in a way that benefits the few and not the many. And that is my take on what's happening with Jupiter meeting Venus in Cancer, in sidereal Cancer, and in tropical Gemini. Like, we're getting the information now being felt in the body, now being understood in the mind. And the need for peace and comfort and protection, unity and care being met time and time again with punishment that we pay for. You know? Is this even real? How is this real? Also, that it's in the water sign and AI and the data centers stealing water and pulling our emotion, our authentic, creative, abundant, unified consensus reality, and turning it into this thing that we don't even want, right? We're being forced into this technological future that has nothing to do with our humanity. But we don't have much of a choice. So that's my take on the meaning of Jupiter and Venus. It's this, we're understanding the meaning of this sameness and this belonging to something, to an inhuman end, which is essentially, in my mind, the agenda of unresolved trauma. And that's really all it is. You see it in the many genocides we have on the planet. You see it in the wars that won't end. And you see it, unfortunately, in the men of our culture who cannot become vulnerable and cannot join us all in the fact of human care. That is a reality. And vulnerability on this planet is a reality. Will it take something catastrophic to be able to bring that there? No, it might never do it. So back to the reality of the sun, moon, earth relationship. The eclipses that we had, and this squaring of Uranus with the nodes of the moon that's going on right now. This is another indicator to me of, you know, a kind of sudden change of mind that's going to be forced. It's a confusing and chaotic, fiery new beginning, where we're moving out of the set of eclipses that we had from February 17th, 2026 and January, February, March 3rd of 2026, that were all about, you know, power. And Pluto was there with the first eclipse that was in Aquarius. And it was a solar eclipse with Pluto, where, you know, the relationship to power was that we were going to have to either change or die. and the water from the emotional realm that is coming through that Aquarian symbol, right? He's one of the 3 humanoid signs in the zodiac, and he is pouring the water from another realm. Makes me feel like this is a conquest of dimensionality, and I've been thinking for a very long time, since about 2018, that 2026 was pivotal to this. Now, more and more, I think the eclipses that are coming are very pivotal to this, because when that relationship between the sun, the moon, and the earth undergoes an eclipsing, and the nodes of the moon, the shadow planets, come into view, come into play, it's a slow, steady progression of changing our minds. But this one feels like it's going to slip a little. Like it's going to move a little faster because of the way that Pluto is involved, because of the way that Uranus is squaring the nodes right now, and it will all the way through to these eclipses that we have coming up. Now, that second eclipse earlier in 2026 that closed the eclipse season was in Virgo, and it was a lunar eclipse, which had us evolving toward that north node with Neptune in Pisces and Aries. And these nodes are like tides, and the emotions that flow are showing us that there's something here that we have to discern about the need for peace, comfort, protection, and care being met with punishment, the stealing of water, the hijacking of emotion, right? Plodding steadily forward toward an end we know not where. But we are assured by our leaders that it is the right way to go. You know, we have to be able to discern what needs to be let go of and what we need to dissolve. And the only way that we can do that is to understand the meaning of it. The meaning of the AI. The meaning of the Bitcoin and all the other shell games that are being played economically. You know, AI requires us to discern, good Virgoan word, discernment, in order to evade its grip. Like, I know, you've been looking at images on the internet, and you're like, is that real? That's not real. And that's what this period of time is absolutely calling us toward. How do we determine what is real? What is the meaning of the word reality? So I've said a lot, but really those are the words. Meaning, reality, discernment. Another figure pouring water. What's the meaning of healing? What are we meant to heal? What does it mean to have a non-human intellect getting a hold on the throne of Earth? There's a very specific way in which our soul, for each one of us, you know, okay, my definition of soul, playful learning being, doesn't really care about what's wrong or right, except what's wrong or right for me, what's wrong or right for my person. And toward that end, it leads me with my emotions. And when my emotions are hijacked to the degree that they are right now, just in order to be able to play in the culture that I'm in. My discernment, my individuation, and the importance of my mission, my reality, what I'm sent here to do. I mean, if you believe about it that way, you don't have to. Is completely hijacked. Meaning, reality, a celebration of what's living, what's good, what's green, and the harvest that is my own individuation, the meaning I make of what's going on here, and how I share that, how I create communities of people who understand meaning in the same way that I do. We don't have that in our society right now. We have something different. We have a machine intellect, something that's not human, that we seem to be evolving toward against our will. And I want to be very clear about that. Most of the people I know are not here to tell you that computers have made their lives easier and better. Some things, sure, but on the whole, more complicated. And not in a novel way, complicated, but in a algorithmic, numerical way. Meaning, discernment. And this is the point of it, right? If you express your individuation, your individual point of view, without connecting it to this culture in this way, algorithmically, mathematically, so-called pseudoscientifically. Because remember, science is meant to be evidence-based. And we don't have any evidence of the fact that we need an AI. We don't have any evidence of a lot of things. There's a lot of different interpretations as to what reality is. As an individual, if you speak up about yours right now, especially if it's about compassion, care, or what you need personally, this is pretty much where you're going to go with that. It's not a bad place, though, because it looks like this sometimes, too. But it's getting harder and harder to speak up for yourself and still have belonging and still have sameness with others. That dual divide is becoming greater and greater the more we listen to the televised playbook. So in terms of discernment, this card seems to ask, is it worth it? Is your individuation worth it? Now, moving ahead, the real point of what I wanted to bring up to you here, I just want to take a look at the backside. The other side of reality is unity, right? You can speak your own mind and be alone, or you can join the crowd and be together and be unified. Interesting. Give you the other side of this one. A dictated reality. Walking away. Uranus is the planet of individuation, and it is squaring the tides that are on our planet right now, what we move toward and what we move away from. It's changing all of it. It's throwing the whole card deck up in the air. And by August 12th of 2026, we will have a solar eclipse, a south node solar eclipse in Leo. I think it's in both charts, it's in Leo. And we know what that means on this channel. When it coincides in both charts, and the nodes are changing. Tropical nodes are changing at the end of this month, and I think the sidereal are already in their process. So we'll be releasing something that our hearts and minds have outgrown. And I feel like that has something to do with a reality that we are being sold right now. And we all can feel the intuition that something is coming. I think it's going to happen around this eclipse season. I think already our minds are being forced to change, and they definitely will at this new moon, through external events, right? I don't think it's going to be the internal this time. But we have a change of the nodes, and that happens every 18 and a half years ago. Every 18 and a half years. Ooh, I'm going to take a look at what we've got here. Something squished out. And I'll put those down. Rest. A card of rest. A card of creativity. And the repeat of the card of individuation. It's a childish attachment to thinking that technology is always progress. We're being hoodwinked. I guarantee you. I've been really taking a deep dive into philosophy of mind for since 2002, and I don't think there's any reason to believe that more and more information is going to produce a machine intelligence. That's not how it works. Organic intelligence is what we have, and we cannot recreate it outside the reproductive cycle. So what's happening now is kind of a birth for us, and all kinds of things are being put in the way of it. But not, I mean, maybe there is evil in the world, I don't know, but it's parts of us that are afraid of our own progress, that are trying to stop us and slow us down. If we rest, we might be able to get on the side of our own progress instead of fighting against it. And that's what I mean by this eclipse on the 12th of August releasing a childish attachment. You know, it takes us back into that relationship with Pluto in Aquarius, because right across the way from the Leo eclipse, we will then have a lunar eclipse in Pisces and Aquarius. So not as hard-hitting as the double Leo signature, but that North Node will be in Aquarius in both cases, whether the moon is in Pisces or Aquarius at 8/27, at August 27th. And something is going to require our discernment, right? We are in Pluto in the node territory, Uranus in the node territory, just like we were in 2019. And we know that there was a global event that happened then. it's very possible that something like that could happen now. But now we have this benefit of hindsight. This is not astrology that anybody has ever seen before. So we're going into completely new territory. And it involves the change or die planet, right? But it also involves Saturn conjuncting the North Node. So all three of those in Aquarius, Pluto, Saturn, and the North Node. Starting on, I believe it is the 27th. Yes. No, it's the 26th of July. Pluto will retrograde. Or I'm sorry, it's not Pluto. It's Saturn that will retrograde. And it will cast its gaze from Pisces to Aquarius, where right now Pluto and the North Node are sitting. So, this is where things get a little interesting. This is where we're called upon to surrender to the soul. Because we're not going to be able to understand this through a historical experience. The mind is going to be forced to change, right? We have to watch the movie as it unrolls around us, and we're surrendering to that soul, that being that wants you to individuate and become what you came here to be, because it has everything to do with the right rhythm and the harmony of the world. As Saturn, the planet of limitations, retrogrades from 726 to the end of 2026, let's say. And this is the place where external structures will start to realign to fit the internal reality. So, the reason that I'm bringing all of this up is because it's so important that you focus your internal reality now on your humanity, on care, on nurturance, on love, on being kind. And that is a good meaning for not only this new moon that's coming, but that slightly disappointing Jupiter-Venus conjunction, right? In sidereal Cancer and tropical Gemini. Loop that cycle back around to realigning yourself, to bringing yourself into right rhythm, harmony. Despite everything that is happening around us, you know what the right things for you to do are. It just requires a lot of guts to do them, right? The accountability that should have been addressed in 2007, 18 and a half years ago when the nodes were last here, and 2017 will surface. It's time to choose and decide and reconcile the opposites within us to reality. And that's going to mean something different for each and every person. But I can give you some ideas from the Vedic astrology, because it's the Vedic astrology that tells us this Saturn's gaze, Saturn moving its, I gotta move the incense, it's just killing me. Sorry about that. Makeshift altars, you never know. It's telling us that when Saturn retrogrades, it looks at the house before it. It looks at the house it just left. And Saturn, Rahu, or the north node of the moon, and Aquarius are all very Vata, very air, very wind. And in that, fear is gonna get ratcheted up. You know, the side of us that does not want to evolve in this way uses fear, uses scarcity hordes in order to keep the evolution from happening. So we're going to see a surge of collective fear, probably AI financial correction and speculative financial volatility. I would say, and I know this is partly wishful thinking, but I think it's also really possible. It could happen that there will be a lot of political accountability as Aquarius rules democracy. We're already seeing the electromagnetic and electric volatility. I just saw a commercial the other day about Northwest Energy telling us that they were going to shut things down due to fire. One of the greatest, fire starters around here, telling us what they're planning to do. And also, of course, the volcanism and the earth changes and earthquakes that we've seen recently, some very high magnitude, the poor Philippines just getting pounded, storms that have excessive wind associated with them. And I don't know if you've been watching that yourself the last couple of years, but excessive wind really happening. And not to fearmonger, just to say these are the things that we need to stay grounded and aligned through. So we've got challenges and we've got our work cut out for us, right? Unstable communities will dissolve, aligned communities will arise. It will take some time. Uranus is a 7-year process. So we'll need to see how that kind of goes. But the supply chain, the debt crisis, unethical things collapsing shouldn't surprise us, and that should be something we should embrace. The scientific paradigm will probably be challenged beginning and ending with human evolutionary theory. Spiritual seeking is going to rise because in times of turmoil it always does. But also the human timeline will probably have a lot to do with that as well. Unrest, migration, power struggles, and reversals. I think those things are kind of obvious. I just wanted to mention them to you. And of course, corporate networks not built on trust. Saturn returns rectify these things. And in Leo, where this will happen, Saturn will be in the 8th house with its gaze on the 7th. There could be a definite need to check in with the partnerships and what you've allied with and, make sure that what you're doing outwardly is aligned inwardly. That's my whole point. Let's do a reading. We are the Knight of Cups. It's Jupiter conjunct Venus in Cancer and somewhat in Gemini, because emotions are information, right? Emotions are data. And it's kind of the data that the AI is trying to mine from you. It's certainly having the result of repressing it in us. So we're going to need to try and stay grounded in our emotional reality, in a loving, caring, giving, centered wholeness. We are crossed by the Lovers. This is a really good choice card. It's also society. When things get too big, and I'm going to use too big to fail, they become burdensome. And what we have collectively right now is burdensome. It is not helpful. It is destructive. It is warlike. And it is becoming forever war. We don't want to be crossed by forever war forever, but this is grounded in the Empress. Creativity, right? who owns the throne of earth? It belongs to all of us. But only if our hearts are open can we receive it. This is grounded in the throne of earth. The struggle that we are undertaking, the movie we gotta watch, the place of chaos where we have to stay aligned and grounded, is the body of the mother. And we are crowned by the Four of Pentacles. Wah. Yeah, it's that Saturn limitation, that cap, right? We don't know another way to create the creative energy. So we only have the resources we have. And hoarding is limiting us. We have the wisdom to change the system. What we seem to lack is the will. We are leaving behind. Whoa, thank God. Oh, systems of betrayal, right? Systems that tell us who gets to live and who gets to die based on skin tone, economic attainment, geographic placement. All the cultures that had to die so that ours could prevail. Moving away from that, please, as fast as possible. Thank you. I'm very appreciative for that card where that is. And moving forward to a new thought. Now, two ways you could read this. This could also be surveillance and the spy. But I think I want to read it differently. I want it to be a new thought. A generative organizing principle. Something moving us out of forever war. And I like the way he's kind of holding his sword away. Like, I'm not going to hit you with it, but I'm going to divide some things. A redistribution of mental energy. A new way of looking at things. A gestalt shift, right? Is it a duck or is it a bunny? You can't see it the same way at the same time. You can't see it in different ways at the same time, but you can be aware of the fact that there are two different ways of seeing it. And then you get to choose. Choices are sacred. We begin as the magician. We have everything we need to go down a new road. A more inclusive, loving, caring, peaceful route that is aligned with eternity. That is vertical, that comes correct. We begin with the capacity. All around us is the work that needs to be done. I think this is the Eight of Pentacles. And this is mastery. You know, mastering our emotions, mastering our fear, mastering ourselves as we move through this next eclipse cycle. And understanding the importance of actually being here and undergoing the formality of actually doing this. If our attitudes never get expression, all we're going to get is forever war. And we want peace. And we want mastery. And we want craft. And we want good food. And we want the Three of Cups celebration. And we want the Empress on her throne of earth. Not a machine mind, but a human craftsman. We hope and fear Fate. Destiny. And I gotta say, with all that talk about eclipses and Uranus squaring the nodes, that's really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about having faith in life and having faith in whatever put 108 suns between the sun and the earth and 108 moons between the moon and the earth. Every set of prayer beads in the Eastern world is 108 beads. The reason for that is to celebrate the order, the beauty of these cosmic cycles. We've just forgotten a lot, and we need to be able to come together to remember. We finish. The High Priestess, is that it? Yep. Intuition will win. The inner knowing will prevail. We will all come to completion with the scintilla, the spark that's created within us. Don't doubt it. Just live it. Watch the movie, make the choices. And don't let anybody steal them from you, no matter how much they want to pay. All of this in the service of, Nine of Wands. Stand your ground. We have to stand for what's right, and that's going to mean something different to each and every one of us. To most of the people who are kind of with me on this journey, it means that. The good green earth. Thank you for your attention and your time, and for thinking about what's coming in the sky with me, for thinking about the sun and the moon and the earth, and our place in that. I appreciate you.